welcome back to my channel. My name is Chantel, but you can call me Chanty. And today I'm doing something a little bit different for my channel. And I'm gonna be depotting my Storybooks Cosmetics Robin Hood palette. So as you can see, today we're in a different setting. This is my living room. I just thought this would be an easier surface to show you guys what exactly I was doing. For Christmas, my friend got me a magnetized palette by this company on Etsy called Book of Shadows. Oh, hang on. So it's called Book of Shadows. I haven't checked out pricing, but the palette itself is really cute. So you get to choose your own packaging, and my friend chose this really nice floral pattern for me, which I love. And the inside is just one giant palette that's magnetized and empty. It's quite thin, and I would say it's probably about your standard palette size. I'll show you next to my Storybooks Cosmetics palette, the one that I'll be breaking down today, about the size that it is. Much thinner. And this palette only has 6 shadows, so this one is going to be able to hold these and more, which I'm really excited for. I watched a few depotting videos before I decided to try this. And some materials that I gathered I needed was a straightening iron, some parchment paper, and some sort of sharp, thin object that you can use to lift the pans out of the palette. I didn't really have much, so I just decided to go with a kitchen knife, which may be a little dangerous, so I'm going to have to be very careful. Okay, so I'm going to set my straightener warming up. The videos that I watched had differing temperatures. I'm gonna go for 450. Oh, looks like my straightener only goes up to 445, so we're going with 445. And while that heats up, I'm gonna try breaking into my Storybooks palette. So I started out by trying to cut into the middle of the palette with an exacto knife, but realized pretty quickly that that wasn't gonna work. So I took some of the parchment paper and put the palette on top, then proceeded to place my warm straightener underneath so that the glue could start melting. Now this took a while, but I think this whole process, well, the heating of the bottom of the palette took about 6 or 7 minutes, whereas some of the videos that I watched to kind of plan for this one, it would take around 10 or 15 minutes before they were able to melt the glue enough to do anything. Once the glue had heated up enough, I started taking the exacto knife along the edge, just trying to lift that big cardboard box off the kind of cover of the palette, because it kind of looks like a book cover, right? So I'm just trying to lift it off from that cover there. Once the glue had melted enough, I was able to just kind of lift it off, just kind of making a face there because the glue looked really gross to me. Now I was trying to pull this part, I was trying to pull it apart as gently as possible because I didn't want to accidentally throw the eyeshadows onto the ground and risk busting them up. Now that's what the back looked like. You can see the gross glue. I wasn't quite sure how to attack this next part, but then I realized that there was kind of that cardboard setting on top there that was framing the eyeshadow palettes. And once I had that free, I was able to just go in and pluck each of them off. It didn't require any heating whatsoever, which was really handy. They all came out so easy, but there was a little bit of glue and cardboard on the back. So then I started filling the pans into the palette. And in a moment here, I'm going to test the magnetization of my palette. It felt a little flimsy to me, and I was right. So I don't know whether it's the tin that the eyeshadow pans are made out of, or if it's the palette itself, but it just wasn't quite magnetized enough, maybe. I'm not too sure which it was, but for whatever reason, I'm not able to kind of flip them on its head, but they sit in nicely, and it still takes up less space than the Storybooks palette did. Here's a juicy close-up of the 6 pans that I depotted for you today. The color story is kind of nice. You're kind of limited to how many you can do, so I'm really looking forward to getting other pans in there as well, so then I can start playing. But for now, this is a good start. So that has been depotting my Storybooks Cosmetics palette. That went way better than I could have hoped for. Now, I watched a bunch of depotting videos, and it seemed a lot harder in those, so maybe it's the glue that they used on these is just a little bit easier, has a lower melting point. So I'm not sure if every palette would be this easy to tear apart, but the Storybooks Cosmetics was really different because of, instead of having the palettes sitting in a pan that was already set out, it was just kind of sitting on top of cardboard, and there was a piece setting around it. So as soon as I was able to get that piece out, taking it off the cardboard was super easy. Now, these metal tins aren't highly magnetized, so they're not sitting in there the greatest. If I tip it over, one of these is probably good. But they look super cute when they're in. I just can't be dumping them all over counters like that. And I'm really relieved because this palette was the bane of my storage existence. Do you want up? You can come up. Jazz decided he wanted to be in the video today. So my Exacto knife is now covered in glue, so I'm gonna have to figure out how to get that off. So if you are going to use a knife of some kind, I would definitely recommend using one that you don't mind getting glue on it. That's something I definitely didn't think about. I'm glad I had the parchment paper in between the straightener and the palette, because if any of the ink on the cardboard was going to bleed out onto my straightener, I wouldn't be able to use it for my hair anymore. And this doesn't have anything on it from the palette. I hope you guys found this helpful and you can learn from my mistakes, especially with the knife. I'm definitely going to be doing more depotting videos like this in the future. I just don't have any other palettes that I want to break down right now because most of my palettes aren't a waste of space like the Storybooks Cosmetics was. What do you think, Jazzy? Do you want to say goodbye? If you like this video, if you like my vibe, don't forget to like and subscribe. Thank you so much for watching, guys. Take it easy.